From Santa Barbara, California, the Timeless Voyager series, where the knowledge is timeless and you are the Voyager. Interviews with leading-edge authors and speakers, psychic phenomena and the unexplained, UFOs, extraterrestrial encounters, government cover-ups, alternative healthcare, new technologies. Fasten your cosmic seatbelts and join me, your host, Bruce Stephen Holmes, the Timeless Voyager. My guest today is Josh. He's the creator of the h.o.p.e Spirit Box. He is a clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient, as well as a conscious medium. His God-given ability is used to help others connect with their spirit guides, angels, and of course loved ones for direction and guidance. Josh connects with his own higher beings and ascended masters to bring forth understanding to areas of one's life that may be cloudy. Using his unique style, he incorporates seeing, hearing, and feeling what Spirit has to give him regarding a message for his clients. Believing in a higher power, he chooses to call God. Josh uses his ability to help people reach levels in their life never attained before while reconnecting with loved ones in a very special way.
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for having me back. It's always an honor. Appreciate it.
Good. For people that do not know who you are, because I'm sure lots of people do, why don't you just give us a rundown as to what it is you do that makes you quite unique in this field?
Well, I've been doing what I do for 10 years. I started just kind of doing paranormal investigation, and I found that I had an intuitive ability that needed developing. I work in a field where it's not just intuitive, where I'm picking up things, but I'm also recording responses from spirit. And it got to the point where I found that I was capturing better responses over time. It was starting to get clearer and better. So it's really advanced spirit communication, which could also be called ITC, instrumental trance communication, using equipment to communicate. I developed my intuitive ability with my teacher, Deborah Lynn Katz, a PhD. She's an amazing woman, and she taught me a lot. And so what I was able to do was mix my intuitive psychic ability, mediumship ability, and put it together with my the technology, the ITC, the equipment, and the recordings. And so those two things are married for me. A lot of times. Go
Yeah,
ahead, I'm
just
sorry.
no, it's good. You're definitely doing what I asked. I wanted to ask you a question though,
Sure.
before I lose it. Um, Maybe I could have people understand a little bit about the technology, if you think that would be appropriate. I think it's always good for people that are wondering, like, what is this then, and how does it work?
Right. Well, I mean, as I was saying, that it's just those two things married together are normally something that are not I don't see very often. Normally, there's a psychic or medium that they do what they do intuitively, and they don't use equipment. Then I see people using equipment, but they really don't tap into the intuitive ability that they have, or if they have one, or um, so putting those two things together are important. You asked a question, what really is the kind of equipment? And so there's something called a spirit box. I mean, most people have seen on TV, like Ghost Adventures or Ghost Hunters or whatever, that they have a radio box that might skip through radio stations and kind of give errant sounds that spirit can use to form their responses. And so there's that. There's a digital voice recorder, which you can capture EVP. which is an electronic voice phenomenon. It's just a voice speaking on a recorder. It's fairly simple. It's not easy to do, but it is kind of a simple technique when you kind of get into it. I have been developing stuff with this equipment and kind of playing with spirit boxes, playing with the voice recorders, trying different things. And then it came to the point where I realized that a lot of these spirit boxes and apps that people offer use forward speaking speech to kind of give the spirit sound to use. That's great, and spirit can use it, and so you can get direct responses from a radio spirit box, or even some apps that aren't made for entertainment purposes if there's a legitimate app. um, but the problem with that is that you get a lot of false positives. You get a lot of words bleeding through a radio broadcast or the app's sound banks that are not spirit. And so someone's using it, they hear a word, they think it might be spirit, but they don't know. And so you get these false positives. I came up with an app a couple of years ago that you could use sounds that are human sound, but no words. So no words, only human sound. And it's reversed, it's chopped up, it's slowed down speech, human speech. So it's all gibberish. And I do that because I know that the spirit can manipulate the audio to form their own responses. But when they don't use it, nothing but gibberish comes through. So we don't get the false positive that we would get in a spirit box or another app. So you got this amazing app that's free. It's iOS and Android, h.o.p.e Spirit Box, free, iOS, Android, like I just said. And people are using it. They're sending me their recordings. I'm using it in my sessions every day, and I'm showing examples of it. I'm about to release in the next day or so a pro version for desktop online. It's an online version for desktop computers and laptop computers. It's not for the phone. It's not an app that you can download. It's a membership for $5 a month. You can join and use this massive spirit communication suite. Pretty much what it is. It's there's two separate boxes or devices within this program that you can utilize, two different types. When you record stuff, you can go into in the program, you can listen to it and review it and slow it down, because you got to review these sessions that you do. And then you can export the clips to share, and it's all done within the program, and it's really remarkable stuff. So I've been showing examples of that on my channel for the last, I would say, 2 months now, that every session I'm doing, whether it's a well-known person, an unknown person, regular client, group sessions, I do a bunch of group sessions for patrons. It's all examples of me using this new pro version, which is really, I think, is going to change the game. I really think it's going to change ITC, or it's going to be a big
Yeah.
tool in it.
So we're gonna talk more about that, because people can go and watch all of these, and we have examples of some of this stuff. But
Right.
I like getting into some of the things that people they have questions, but you're not there, and I'm very fortunate to have you there to ask these questions. So let's go back a little bit through what we're talking about here. Um, I was very familiar with EVP, as you know, and many of the people that are watching probably don't know. Once again, it's electronic voice phenomena. That was back probably about 30 years ago when I got involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
In those days, we used cassette tape recorders,
Which is
and
actually better.
well, yeah, because I'll agree with you on that one, because it turns out that yes, um, that's one issue that people may not know right away, and I'm glad you brought that up. The point that I'm going to try to get in here, though, is this. Whereas you are clairaudient, the average person is not. That's why this is so important, because my understanding of the communication aspect of this is that there is not like a telephone line that's coming direct from whatever dimensionality we're talking about that separates this place from, let's say, that place or those places. I don't even know if it's one, it could be many. So for a person who's clairaudient, you can pretty much hear or feel or is sentient. You somehow can get a message. But for the rest of us, we're going to rely on something that needs to be done here. So going back to EVP, what was used in the old days was they found that, for example, the sound of running water would create some way
An
that
ambient sound.
a transient communication could happen and could be recorded.
Mhm.
And so you're doing that with this, you call it forward, what did you call it? Forward,
It's reversed, slowed, chopped
forward.
up speech. It's just human speech that's been
Right.
reversed, slowed down, and chopped up into small increments randomly.
So there's nothing real, as you said, there's nothing really there, but
Not words.
it can act as a way for some type of audible experience for someone listening.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that,
it acts the same as the water.
yeah,
It's the same thing as the water. I mean, any sound, ambient sound, can be used by spirit. The problem with using water is that you would get a lot of pareidolia, and
I'm not familiar. What is that? Yeah, okay, good. What does that mean?
well, okay, so pareidolia is seeing a face in something when it's not really there because the
Okay.
mind is trained to see human faces or to see the face. So we have to be careful. Sound pareidolia is hearing something that we think is there, but it's not there. And so there's a fine line, it's a gray area when it comes to me extracting messages from the sound and it being pareidolia. You got to be careful. That's why the review process is so important. When I record 10 minutes of footage, a session, that might take me an hour or two to really effectively review it. And I won't do it just once. I'll go through it over the course of days with fresh ears, objective mind, going back and listening, not looking at my captions, seeing if I hear the same thing, that kind of thing. Of course, you get very direct responses. You get a yes, it's me, hello, I'm here. They give detailed, answers as well, but those require sometimes a little bit more review as opposed to something that you can hear in real time. That's a direct response to something that I asked. But yeah, I mean, spirit needs sound, and I have a voice recorder back there that is just a Panasonic voice recorder, but it's known as kind of like the holy grail of voice recorders. And the reason is because Panasonic made this recorder in like the early 2000s. It was $30. I mean, a really cheap recorder. People bought it, were using it for voice memos and things like that, and they would go and play it back and they would hear human voice whispering on there, and it
Hmm.
wasn't them. So they sent that back to they complained to Panasonic, and so
Right.
Panasonic was getting a lot of complaints about this certain recorder. And it's also voice activated, so it will stop recording when your voice stops, and then when you start talking again, it will start recording. And so
Hmm.
okay, and so but the counter would start moving on its own sometimes. With it would start recording on its own without the person speaking,
Hmm.
and you could see the little cursor moving, and it would move in the way like human speech would. And so you go back and listen. So anyway, Panasonic said it's a faulty chip that mimics human speech, and that they said that, so they discontinued it. But that's BS. I mean, I've now tested it over the course of the last like 6-7 years. I even worked with a forensic audio expert, a very famous one named Ed Primo. He did the missing Malaysian flight tapes. He did the Trump
Hmm.
tapes. He's done a lot of amazing tapes. He's been on CNN with Chris Cuomo when he was there. So there was a bunch of like he was out there, and so I worked with him. And I sent him recordings. I actually recorded recordings for him that the spirit was saying his name, saying Ed Primo, and they were saying his name. And I sent that to him, and he said, yes, I hear what you suspect that you hear, or what you think you hear as far as words. I'm hearing that. I'm not ready to say it's human speech. I'm not ready to say that I hear exactly what you're saying you're hearing, but it is the cadence of human speech. And the sound waves move like, in the frequency that, that human speech moves. He says, what my concern is, what I'm trying to figure out, he said, is I'm trying to figure out how it was put on the recorder. How are you getting, or how is it getting on the recorder? So he tried to create an exemplar. An exemplar is like an example, is trying to reproduce the sound, and he could not reproduce the sound. He could not do it. So, he had to come to the conclusion that even though I can't say that it's spirit, I'm very scientific, he said, I will say that we are hearing what sounds like human speech and is indicative, and it's on the same frequency as human speech. But the reason I bring that up, long-winded answer, and I apologize, I do talk a lot. The
No, this is
recorder.
good. This is why people are listening. They
Oh,
can
I
do
know.
all the other stuff.
I got a complaint the other day that I didn't let the interviewer talk much. I was just running my mouth the whole time on another interview. So I'm just kind of prefacing that. But
That's all right.
anyway, the recorder, because of how cheap it is, kind of creates this little internal hissing sound.
Mhm.
And so the hissing sound that it creates gives the spirit extra sound to use to form their own responses. So that's why that happens. So that's all we're doing. We're just giving the spirit sound to use that is not going to create a false positive. So I will not get a response and think it's spirit when it's not.
Excellent.
And the audio recorder thing, I just want to touch on,
Yeah,
the analog is what works better than digital.
right.
So that's what
Exactly.
we were kind of getting to, is that recorder is analog. I mean, it's a digital recorder, but it's really very, um, there's something to it that makes it older, that makes it's not as technologically advanced. And because of that, I find that things that are older, things that are not as, noise canceling and things like that,
Mhm.
the older things, the cheaper things seem to work better for spirit.
And remember, and I come from the music business, so I can acknowledge all that. That's why everybody's using vinyl now. Um, so we have quite a few examples here. You showed me some things, and I brought them up. I've got them sitting here in front of me. So the real issue is, I need to probably tell you what I have, and then you might want to tell me what you think we could go to and just start working with, or I can just bring things up and you can
You could
comment.
just play whatever you want, and then I'll just tell you what I mean. That's, you can pick if you want. I mean, I think we went over a few clips and we had a
Yep.
couple of good things, mostly all really focused on the Hope Spirit Box Pro, because that's what I've been using lately, and that's what's about to come out. So, I mean, that's really what I think the story is right now, the news
Okay,
story.
so I have one called Man in a Coma. Was that one of those?
Yep.
All
So,
right.
yeah, I had a friend. I'll just kind of, I'll
Yeah,
tee it up for a second. I mean, I had a
absolutely.
friend a few months ago. His mom had a couple of mini strokes, and she was intubated in a hospital. And he called me and he was upset, and I, um, just felt the need to reach out to her before she passed. I knew she was in a hospital bed up the road, and I just felt intuitively that I should reach out to her. I did through the box, and I captured amazing responses. And so because of that, I now know that if someone's in a coma, that I have a chance of reaching them just the same as if they were deceased on the other side. And I know that sounds crazy, but I had another friend just recently, his father, same situation, mini strokes, intubated, hospital, Puerto Rico. And so I got on my box, my Hope Spirit box, and I asked for his, my friend's father, and his father came through. And I feel he did. And he had a couple of messages for him. And as I sent that to him, my friend was getting on the plane to go see him, to go try to be by his bedside. And he was listening to this recording on the plane. And as he was listening to the recording, his father passed away.
Hmm.
So it was almost like his dad knew that he got these messages across and that his son was going to hear him and that he was free to go. And of course, I reached him after he passed away as well. So that's what this clip is, I think.
All right, let's take a look.
What's a message you have for Chris? If you have a message for him before, anything you want him to know before tomorrow or the next day? This is your voice in Spanish, chopped up, reversed. I mean, it's complete gibberish. How are you? Can you say anything like, how are you?
So there you are. You get some pretty direct responses. I mean, the first one, he says his name. He says, "It's all right, Chris." He said, I asked him if he was ready to go. He said, yes, very clearly. One word answer, yes.
Mhm.
I said, some people that are in a coma describe they've seen a long hallway. He goes, I see it. So I mean, he really confirmed. And then on that, when after he passed, about a month or so after, a few weeks after, we reached out to him. And he's like, I'm here. Let's talk. And he goes, I love you. He says, I love you a couple of times. And then at the end, after about 8 minutes or so, he's like, I used it. I'm done. You can turn it off now.
Cool.
Because it's not always easy for them to use. They'll use it. They can do it. But it's not super easy. It's not easy for me. It's not easy for them. But it works.
We have this example of Paul Walker. Would that be one to do?
No, that's an older example, which is fine. And if you want to play, that's just kind of showing.
That's why. That's cool.
Yeah.
People would be interested in, I think, the Lisa Marie Presley one.
Yep. I just asked for Lisa Marie. She seemed a little bit more, and it's rare. It's very rare. But she seemed a little bit more like she was willing to play ball. She was willing to talk. She had some nice things to say, but I don't think she's really in the greatest place yet as far as how she feels. I don't feel like she's in any kind of bad place, but I mean, it's just, I don't think that she's in heaven yet. I think that she's kind of resting. And it seemed like she was kind of, towards the end of the session, she was kind of like, all right, I'm done with this. Like, I can't, it's like, this is hard, but she had some good things to say.
Now, these clips that we're watching, they are truly clips. The rest of these others,
yeah, the full
long.
videos are on my channel. The full length session. These are just really
And
one or two.
Is that Hope Paranormal?
Yeah, I mean, the channel is Hope Paranormal, but you can find it by going to my website, hopeparanormal.com. But I mean, the site or my channel is youtube.com/Hope Paranormal White Light. But if you just search in YouTube Hope Paranormal,
I can't even remember it.
yeah, it's fine. I mean, if you go to YouTube and you cite,
for those people that are watching and listening, either way, I mean, they can rewind.
It's really simple to just go to YouTube and type in Hope Paranormal. I'll be the first one that pops up.
All right. Well, anyway, let's see here. Let's come back here and let's try it.
What's something that you would like to say that you weren't able to say the other night? What's something that you would like to say on your own to the fans and people that care a lot? What's something that you want to tell them, that you want to share with them? I love you.
Not as clear, but still clear. But I mean, it's you kind of have to watch the full session. That one's a little tough. That was going through my box actually. I have a physical box that I use, and it's really cool. But it's very unique, and so many people will not be able to get it or make it. And so that's kind of like the box I use, but I've kind of converted parts of it and a lot more into the computer program. And so the computer program is for anyone that can use it. And that's why I'm using more of that. In that session with her, I normally like to use both pieces of equipment when I do a session. I like to use the computer version. I like to use the box too. I like to give them both versions. Sometimes the spirit will use the computer better and not the box and vice versa. So I like to give them both, but I use the pro computer version a lot with her, and she did very well.
I think this is actually the pro computer version stream, so I'll just play it, and if it isn't, you can still comment on what
It's
I
fine, yeah.
Loretta, I don't know if this is you. I feel it is. I'm trusting that it is. Um, are you coming down from heaven to visit your great granddaughter Emily? Are you coming down to visit? Seeing Emily, seeing someone. Okay. Give you a clear reverb here. I'm going to switch over to this other device right here. Kind of the same voice coming from the app, but giving you a little bit of a richer sound from the box. But is there anything else that you want to say to Jim or family through here? It sounded like a message. Okay, work with me over here real quick. Let's see. Ask you a couple of questions over here. Are you with Jeremy and Jerry in heaven, Loretta? Yeah, I saw them. Yeah, I saw them.
So, I mean, those are pretty clear, very direct answers.
Very direct, very
I
clear.
love you, Jim.
Yeah.
Very clear message to him. And then I ask a direct question: did you see these people? Yeah, I saw them. And when they repeat you, that's pretty good stuff.
It's interesting because, well, not it's interesting because, but just a way to start the sentence off. People are very interested always in this concept of, is there an afterlife or isn't there an afterlife? Can you communicate with them? Can you not communicate with them? And so on and so forth. And I think this is a nice way to bridge all of that stuff. It could be a completely different thing that's happening here. Okay, it may not be exactly what everyone thinks it is, but that's not important. What's important to me, I think, is the pioneering aspect of this.
Mm.
And I wanted to just kind of say, do you have any comments on that? Have you ever thought about that idea about the pioneering aspect here?
I mean, I've been called a pioneer at times. I mean, someone has said that. I mean, I've got a network TV, guy right now, that's working up a show that they want to pitch me for. They want to put me and in the title is Pioneers.
Hmm.
It's, like Paranormal Pioneers, ITC Pioneers. And so, because I'm working with something so new and I mean, when working in a field that has been around for over 100 years, as far as, Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, Frederick Jurgensen, these a filmmaker,
These were
Konstantin
the
Radoval.
motivating, this is the motivation almost always was this idea of the afterlife.
Absolutely. I mean, these were brilliant men that were creating free energy and electric. I mean, all kinds of things were going on with these guys that were in the mainstream, but they were also very, very interested, and they knew that there was something going on the other side, and that they had an ability to technologically work in that realm. And so a lot of people kind of laughed at them and didn't want to accept what they were doing. So a lot of them did that stuff on their own, on the side, things like that. But they, I mean, Konstantin Radoval, like I said, brilliant Latvian scientist who is kind of one of the forefathers, one of the pioneers, said, ITC is no hobby, and it's not to be treated lightly. It's to be taken seriously, and it's of serious interest. And so, you know, yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that this program and what I'm creating, what I'm doing, the awareness I'm showing. I mean, a lot of people that are working on this kind of thing also don't have YouTube channels, aren't willing to show it publicly. And there's an organization out there called the Soul Phone Foundation, and I tried to work with them, and they play everything very close to the chest, and that's fine. I get it, but they're out there funding to try to get money for people, to donations for their nonprofit to keep developing their equipment or whatever they're working on. Yet they're not showing anything. And again, I'm not knocking them, saying that that's bad. It's just that there's a lot of people that are wanting to know now or wanting to see something now. And I think that I've been able to develop this stuff under the public eye by posting constantly what I'm coming up with, the trial and error, what I'm using, what I'm doing. Now, maybe others can steal those ideas or try to kind of, whatever. I don't know. Someone already did steal the idea from my app and bootlegged it. So, that's someone I trusted. So, that's reality for you.
You and Facebook. Doesn't matter who you are. There's always somebody out there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. This is definitely very, very, this is, trailblazing type of work. And so I get a lot of people that are blown away, but I get a lot of people that are like, BS, man, this is BS. You're a charlatan. You're scamming people. And I say, no, I do it live in person at my live events. I do it live every month for my patrons. I have clients that book on a regular basis. I do not want to know anything about the client or anything about the loved one before, I don't ask the person who we're reaching until we're on the phone right then and there. It's not like, give me the name prior or no. If I do a reading, I give a reading to someone, based on just them saying one name for the first like 10, 15 minutes of an hour reading. I will give, the person will just say one name, and I will just read that name blind and cold for 15 minutes almost, with no feedback from the person I'm reading. So I could be 100% right. I could be 100% wrong. I could be 50% right. Most of the time I'm about 85, 90% right, which is, thank God. But I prove this on a regular basis because when people find out that I am real and that what I'm doing is real, there's no feeling better when these people realize that, and they're like, holy cow, he's a source I can trust. I don't know if I can trust everyone else, but at least I feel confident that this guy is actually giving us the goods. He's telling us the truth,
Let's do another example. What do you think of this one from Ray Liotta?
Yeah, I don't think I used the program with him. I was using the box, which is fine. Again, this is all the work that I'm doing. Yeah, it's great. I loved Ray Liotta as an actor. I grew up watching him. I was in the film business. I still am considered that I'm a filmmaker, and I did write and direct 2 feature films that made it to full distribution, a couple award-winning films there. So I'm happy and proud of that. And I wrote a script with the actor, Michael Rispoli, who was in one of my films, and I became really good friends with him. He's a great actor, great character actor. And so him and I wrote this mob script together, and we wrote Ray a part in that script. And we got that to Ray, and, if we ever got funding, we would actually make the film. But we didn't, and Ray died. So, during the time that, after he passed, I asked for him, and I was getting amazing responses. And I did tell him about that role that I wrote for him, just letting him know that, yeah.
Just what you need, information from for them. We're going to be the afterlife.
Well, I wanted to tell him that I'm sorry, I'll have to change the part now. I'll have to change the role, but it was written for him, and it's a
Sure.
shame that I couldn't get him in there.
All right, well, let's watch it anyway, just because that's what we're doing.
See your mom, your dad, you get to see your parents, any loved ones on the other side. Do you have any desire to stay around here more instead of crossing over like to a higher place, or is there a pull to want to stay around here?
Did
Is
it
that it?
freeze? I don't know. Did it freeze?
No, that's the end of it.
So that just ends like that? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I mean
yeah.
these
That's
clips are not long, but I mean you hear him. I mean he's using the box and then he's using the voice recorder, which I just talked to you about. That's the
yeah.
DR60. That's the Panasonic recorder, and you can hear the EVP is a lot louder than normal
Yes.
EVP. It's a very distinct. I mean it's hard to make out because it's still scratchy, but you can hear him saying, I love using this. The older people really do like to use the recorder over the box because
Mhm.
it's simple, it's not technological, it's very easy. They've seen voice recorders before. They haven't seen a computer program in a box that but a regular, and he calls it a track phone. I mean, he's played a lot of mob guys, and the mob guys have to use these burner
Right.
phones, these
Exactly.
these track phones. So that's funny that he used that terminology, and it's not a shock that he said, I like using this better. And he says, I found the light. I always do. It's kind of like that very typical Ray Liotta. I bounce back on my feet kind of feeling. He was always a tough guy, and he was he would, even interviewers would interview him. They'd ask him a stupid question, and he'd kind of give it back to him. So I mean, he was a good guy, and his parents lived close to me over here, so
Hmm.
there's a little bit of a connection there. But anyway, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Gabby Petito. This is
She's probably the greatest case there ever was. She's the greatest connection I've ever had. I'm still connected to her. I just posted an update video session with her. Um, she has
let's
done,
remind people who she is, or
yeah. So Gabby was the 23-year-old that was she went she went missing. She was with her boyfriend Brian out in I think the Grand Tetons or Zion National Park or whatever out in Wyoming or whatever, um, and she was missing. And he came home and she wasn't with him, and now there was a search for her, and so I did a session to try to just to find out about her, and they said that she was dead already. She was outside. Psychically, I got so many things about her before her body was found, and everything I said in that session before her body was found was what was listed in Brian's diary months later. When I did sessions to reach out to her, she said, Brian did it. He did it by hitting me in the head. That Brian was dead, that he shot himself. She said all of these things prior to the authorities releasing the information. So if people are in disbelief of this, if people are like, how do you even hear what they're saying? How do we even know what they're saying? Because some people don't hear what I'm tagging, and I get that. The information that I was tagging, the information that I was hearing from her saying was all correct and was validated and it was detailed. And there was no way for me to know any of that.
so the
Um,
timeline is there.
Oh, it's all been documented. It's all in the channel. I mean, every video was there on the date, and you could see the date, and it was before news was released. And she gave 5 different pieces of key information about her death, about her killer, about what happened to her. Before the release of any authority or any authorities released any information, which of course you can't kind of get that information unless it's released by the authorities. So it was really amazing. And then she showed herself. I asked her to show herself in a session where I was asking for her using water. You can use water to capture spirit photography. It's called Water ITC. And she probably had the best photo that I've ever captured in water. And recently, from this clip that I was just asking for her, she says, "I'm around you a lot. We are connected. We are in line. Our souls have a connection now." And I don't think that there was anything more beautiful. I really cherish it. I really appreciate it because I think that we both helped each other in ways that we didn't even realize. She was helping me, connect and show this work for what it is. And she was getting the help by getting her voice out and being heard and not being forgotten. And, you know, so, I mean, I think it was a beautiful thing.
All right, well, let's watch it.
In the months past, there's been movement with your parents and trying to do what they can to vindicate the wrong. How do you feel about any of that stuff? That's a question I'd like to ask you. People still want to hear from you, and of course, I always want to hear from you. Anything you want to tell the people that still care to hear from you?
So right there, I mean, there's still a lawsuit going on that the Petitos are against the Laundries and against the Wyoming Police Department. So there's all these things that her parents are still doing, and you'll see it pop up in the news every once in a while. And of course, the attention is off that case now. And I think that's what she was saying, is that I asked her about, how do you feel about that movement with these lawsuits and things? And she says, yes, nobody cares, and it doesn't really bother. It doesn't matter to her anymore. I mean, she doesn't care about the money or whatever that is gained. I mean, maybe there's some responsibility that's taken from some party, whether the Laundries or whether it's the police department in Wyoming, but it doesn't affect her salvation. It doesn't affect her journey on the other side. All of the news has come out, so I think she's more interested in just evolving on the other side spiritually. And I said, how do you feel about the people that are, that still miss you and whatever, the love that they've, and she says, the love, I miss that. I miss the love that she was feeling at the time of when the whole country was kind of looking at that case and what was going on. That's a lot of energy for a soul to feel when it's on you. And she can feel that,
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I connect with her intuitively on my own, mentally sometimes without a box. And I'll just kind of think of her and I'll say something to her. And then I'll hear a message from her and she'll say, thank you. And I'm glad that you're talking to me. And she did say that when she's around me a lot, that I don't notice. And she kind of sounded sad when she said that, and I felt like how many other loved ones are around, deceased loved ones are around their living loved ones. And they're like, I'm right here. I love you, but the living loved one doesn't notice because this world is so distracting, kids and jobs.
That's
And
the key. There's the key word. We are distracted.
oh my
You're
God.
absolutely hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah. The
Because most
distractions
people,
in this world.
I'm just going to say, most people will say things like this. Well, if all this stuff is true, why don't I have it? Why am I not part of it? And I always try to say to them, have you been quiet? Have you sat and just listened? Just listen, just be quiet. Yeah, that idea of listening to nature. When you say listening to nature, most people think, look, I haven't got time for that. I've got this to do and I have that to do and
Right.
I have all
Right.
these things to do. So,
Right.
like I said, distraction is a perfect way to say it.
Yeah. I mean, it is, I mean, I get people that don't do anything in this field, don't have any in touch or any connection really with their spirituality at all, very little. And then they'll see a video and they'll download my app and they'll just start using it and they won't even use it properly because they didn't even really watch the video on how to use it. And they think they're too smart, and so they then try to use it and it doesn't work for them. And then they leave some crappy review or they send me a message and they're like, this is crap. I just turned it on once and tried to use it. It didn't say anything to me. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry that, that you just decided to pull out a spirit phone and on the first time it didn't work for you. I must be fake, but no, I tell people it takes focus. It takes attention. It takes, dedication, patience. Many
Let's take the
people.
example. Let's just for a moment. I know I interrupted you, but
No, no,
take,
no.
take for example, the idea of using a phone. If you are talking, you're not hearing. You have to stop, let the other person tell you something, then there's the information, and you can respond.
Right. And I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, I follow a guru's, I believe in Jesus Christ as my guide, my master guide. Not the religious Jesus, the Gnostic kind Jesus that loves everyone, that doesn't hate anyone, that version of Christ. I love him. But I also follow Paramahansa Yogananda, who is an amazing guru, and he loved Christ. But he talks about, he goes, you have to get quiet. You have to listen. You have to go within. You have to meditate. And in order to meditate, we perceive God through silence, through meditation, through our intuitive ability. And so many people have this clamoring going on in their minds, their heads, because of their life, this very dense world that we're in. There's plenty of distraction, like I said. So, I mean, it's the same even, and how many times do I even think to myself, still this developed after this long, that I'm like, oh, I haven't meditated today because I got busy. My kids came in, or I had something going on, a phone call that was early, and I jumped on it, and now I'm kind of in my flow. And I have to sometimes really stop and go, nope, take this off, turn off everything, and just really be disciplined and force myself to get quiet, focus on the breath, really, and go within. And then, of course, when I come out of it, I'm always just that better of a person. But going in, it's like working out. No one wants to really work out at first. No one wants to wake up early and go, some nuts are out there that love that kind of stuff. But I mean, most people have to really push themselves to get to the gym. But then after that gym, you're like, oh, I feel good. I feel really good that I just did that. The run I just took, or whatever it was. It's the same thing with meditation. And it's the same thing that goes with this. You have to still get quiet. You got to have, be patient and tap into that intuitive ability. You have to believe somewhat that it will work for you too. Scientists don't like that. Scientists don't accept that as an actual reason that you could take a very analytical person and say, here's my app, here's my voice recorder. And they may not get something as strong or anything at all, because they're just not, there is something to be said that you have to believe in this. Even if you don't capture anything, you still have to have a belief. And a lot of times the spirits will say, believe in me, believe I'm here. You do believe, you have to believe, they say that word a lot.
Very important. Let me ask you this. I have this one from Idaho, that whole thing. Is that worth showing? Your opinion?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm using the program at that moment or the box or whatever, but I mean, it was really, I did use the program in that session, and there was a lot of visual evidence as well. So as I'm doing the session, I don't know if you're going to see it in this clip, but as I'm doing the session, there are these, orbs of light that are moving in and out of my body. They're moving in and out of the equipment. They're moving slow. They're moving around. I mean, it's not dust. It's not bugs. So that's really cool. And you can hear the responses while you're seeing the visual evidence that is happening. So yeah, it's really, the Idaho 4, the 4 college victims.
All right, let's watch this.
Also inviting Kaylee Gonkav. I always butcher a name somehow in every session I do, and I even check sometimes, but I still manage. Anyway, that's me.
Just very quick. I mean, very simple. I mean, I was mispronouncing the girl's name, which I do often. I mispronounce names sometimes, and they said, they're waiting for you. One of the guides said they're waiting for you to talk, and then and I even, when I say, I don't show it in the full clip there, but I mean, in the session, when I say the name wrong, like another guide says, you're saying it wrong. So even the guide corrected me and said, you're saying the name wrong. And
Nothing like being corrected by a guide.
Oh yeah. And then she comes through in her own voice, says, that's me, and probably used to people mispronouncing her name her whole life. It's Gonsalves is how you say the name, and I'm saying Goncalves or something. It was kind of
Sure.
like Gonzalez, it's Gonsalves. And so, but anyway, yeah, and that was a really interesting session. There was a lot that came through with them, and each victim, I gave each victim a chance to speak for like 5 minutes, where I was asking them questions, and you can really hear their personality coming through in all four. The guy Ethan, I think, or Ian, I think is Ethan. He wanted to speak. He was fine. He was okay with it. And then the other girl, she was not okay with it. She was kind of like, I don't, go to someone else. I don't really want to talk.
Hmm.
Then another one wanted to talk. She was asking for help. She was saying, is this like, will your prayers bring on the light? And then the other one said that they wanted to stay back, that they weren't ready to go. They wanted to see what happened with the case in this murderer, Brian, the alleged murderer, Brian. So it's, again, you could really, that's the thing that people say that they hear the most, is that when they're watching it, they can hear the tone of the voice, they can hear the personality coming through, and that's really rare. I mean, that's really amazing. I don't see that very often in people's sessions, other people's sessions, I should say.
How about this one with Jason David Frank?
Yeah, he was the Green Power Ranger. He took his own life, a very tragic situation. He had a lot of followers, people that really loved him, and he really reached a lot of people. But I got, I don't always get this with people that have taken their own life. I don't get people are in hell, but I get that. I got with him that he found Christ, that he found God right away, that he found the light. I don't know if that's what this clip is saying, but I was happy to hear that he was sharing that.
All right, let's take a listen.
Jason, can you use this? So can you confirm that you have found God, that you have found our Lord, that experience that I was seeing last night was real, that you were having that experience?
He says, I was finding Jesus, I did. And he says it a few other times in the session as well, where he really confirms. That's something I like to do, is that, because the responses are good, they're clear. Sometimes they're very direct, very clear. But sometimes they're a little bit harder to understand. So I would ask a question. I will ask the same question 2 or 3 times, maybe, in a row, or sometimes I'll spread it out over the course of the session and ask again later on. And I just try to compare those answers. If I can get two times for them to answer the same question with kind of the same answer, then I feel confident that I'm getting the right answer.
Well, it's been really a great show here
It goes
today.
by quick, doesn't it, Bruce?
It does. And I always tell everybody, for our listeners and certainly for the people watching, um, I try to always be respectful, because I'm taking time of yours and you're giving
Oh, yeah.
time to everyone. And so, but for those of you who don't know, Josh has another upcoming session, which of course he's doing this day and night.
Yeah,
So I'm
I have a
glad that we
private
were.
session. I have a private session coming up right now where I'm about to reach out to someone's loved one through the box, through the pro version of the computer. But I'm also going to be doing in the same session, trying to capture their loved ones' pictures in the
Mm.
water and on digital ITC using the digital noise of an infrared camera, and I can capture faces in that. So that's always a really cool service that I offer. It's not guaranteed, but it's a really amazing thing. We've had some great results.
Maybe we can see some pictures of the quote unquote next time we have an
Yeah,
interview.
for sure. For sure.
Um, let's see if we can wrap this up with you telling everyone uh, where you think you're going with this and why it's important.
So instead of being someone that is just trying to show you the stuff on my channel and keep it where I'm the only one doing it, I really continue to find ways to let everyone in on it, to let everyone have an opportunity to do it. And I don't know if that will put me out of a job in a way, whatever, but it's definitely feels like the right thing to do, to show people how they can capture this stuff, how they can do it themselves, how they can work with their loved ones. And it's not just going to mediums and psychics and box people to get those answers. It's great that we can help, but at some point it'd be nice to, have other people being able to do the same stuff, getting the same results that I'm getting in a way. But hopefully using maybe my program or something. But I mean, I think that's really what it is. So keep sharing and showing awareness, or raising awareness and showing people what this is.
All right, this was really, really good. I'm very thankful that you took the time to be with us
No,
today.
thanks for asking, man.
Great. All right, and so now for the rest of you, it's very important that I at least give you some ideas. We'll see Josh soon, and but for those of you who are watching, very important for me to tell you this, and that is this. I really appreciate the fact that you watch Timeless Voyager. To me, it's very, very important, and I'm new. Um, had a history of about 30 years ago. Had the radio program and started developing this one about a year ago, and we've been really growing well. And so I want to thank all of you for that. Most importantly, I want to say this to you. Thank you for listening to the Timeless Voyager series. I'm Bruce Holmes, and I hope that your own personal voyage through life towards the development of your highest potential is a joyous and successful one.